Time for Judd's Hockey Show. Of course, as usual, Zolgad and executive producer, co-host, man who wears many hats, Declan Goff. And Declan, let's start with this. Bill Guerin continues to lock up his players in a good way to what we could describe as team-friendly contracts. The latest one coming down today being announced, Jordan Greenway, 3 years, $9 million. According to the Athletics data, that is $1.7 million below the 4.7 million market value that Greenway carried. So basically, this continues a trend that Bill Guerin has started, for the most part, of signing his players to team-friendly contracts. Your thought with the guy who I think we initially thought when it came to Bill Guerin, he very well might trade.
And I'll be honest, I won't just bury my lead here. I don't think it rules out he isn't going to be traded this summer. I just because he re-signed today on January 31st, 2022, I don't think it means he's for sure locked in here for a long time. We're recording this just obviously like a half hour after his press conference ended too, with at least the reporters, and he touches on a lot of the things that we've talked about. You know, he was someone that was coasting for a while. Bill mentioned that he had a conversation with him 2 years ago, which we knew going into the 2020 season, of what kind of player he wanted to be. And look, Greenway showed up nicely last season. He had 26 assists. That, I believe, that led the team. And this year he's been okay. He's solid. I disagree. I understand why the Athletic had that as his market value. He doesn't. He almost tipped over my laptop. He doesn't get 4.7 on the open market. He just doesn't. I'm sorry. No. I don't see any team that would give him $4.7 million. I don't. However, I will say 3 years, $3 million per for those 3 years. That's fine. That's a fair deal for Jordan Greenway. And I wouldn't rule out that just because he signed that he wouldn't be eventually moved to, again, get them out of cap hell. He signed to a relatively very nice deal that I think another team would 100% take a chance on, and see him still at age, 24, 25, at $3 million into his mid-20s. That's a damn steal. But I think in general, and I'll pop something on the screen here in a little bit after you give your other take on him, I'm not in love with him as a player. I think he's an okay role player, and he plays a very important part on this year's Wild team with Eck and Foligno on that line. So I don't mean to discredit him, but I wouldn't say he is the driving force of that line. I think he's actually the third horse of the most, if I was a pecking order of who's the most important people on that line, and you might even say it's by default, but Jordan Greenway is the least important person on that line. I didn't mean to bring all this negativity about Jordan Greenway, but that's how I look at it.
I would be more inclined to agree with what sounds like your tone towards this if the contract was like, let's say, 12 mil. This is a dirt cheap contract.
It's a good deal.
So like, that's the one thing. If they had signed him to a contract that was more, I would probably be in your camp completely. But I think considering the fact that you're going to be in salary cap hell for 3 years, essentially after this season, I think the fact that you got such a good deal, and we'll go through a list here, you continue to lock up players to what for the most part are bargains. That's what I like, and I think it goes a long way towards showing that Bill Guerin is doing a really good job of creating an environment that his players want to be. So like, so I don't think he is lowballing them as a cheapskate. I think he is basically saying, hey guys, we're in cap hell for the 3 upcoming years after this season. We're not going to have a ton, but we want to pay you a fair but not beyond fair contract to keep you. And I think it's impressive that there is a pretty lengthy list now, Dex, of guys who are saying, oh yeah, I'm on board. So it creates a culture, and this team had a crappy culture.
Yes, it did.
We've been through it for a long time. It creates a culture now of not, I need mine. It creates a culture of, this is a good place to play. It's a good environment. It's a well-run team. I think it's very impressive that there are now numerous players staying here for probably what could be considered slightly below market value contracts because they look at this as a destination of a place that they can win. That's what I think is impressive. So, yeah, I'm in your camp if the contract is more. I think at this rate and term, it's a very good deal.
Kudos to Bill Guerin for the term and the length of the contract. I don't think I have an issue with that at all. That's why I think even there's a chance he still could be moved. I think it's very fair for a player who's 24, who hasn't been a world beater and productive box score wise, but means a lot to that room. And probably, with what Guerin had that conversation with him now 2 seasons ago of what kind of player he wants to be. And Guerin has a more appropriate assessment of that growth than we ever will. You and I can come up with our fun line charts and come up with what we think this team needs. But at the end of the day, Guerin and Evason do know what's best for the team. And I think Guerin having that culture, being the culture setter as a player and as an executive does mean a lot. So I don't have any problem with the terms of this contract. 3 years, $3 million, it's fine. I'll pop something on the screen here analytically because I will say Jordan Greenway analytically, there's almost nothing to write home about his play. He's not what I would say an analytics darling. There's a bunch of numbers that have just popped up on our screen for our YouTube audience, and I'm going to do my absolute best here to explain what you the hell are looking at with all these percentages and graphs and such. So if you look at the center of the screen, you see Jordan Greenway projected WAR. So my guy Jay Fresh Hockey, and if you seriously want analytics broken down in a nice, savvy way that isn't completely nerdy and is contextualized in a way that you can understand, shameless plug for my guy Jay Fresh Hockey. He does a great job on patreon.com. So he takes what's called a WAR, a wins above replacement, which we obviously hear in baseball an awful lot. We now are starting hearing a little bit more in football. And he grades it on a 0 to 100 scale, meaning, a 50% is a average player, 100% being he's in the 100th percentile of the league. Jordan Greenway's WAR is 8%. He's a below replacement level player. And as you see in his on the left side underneath his picture, it says evolving offense and evolving defense. His offense and defensive production are just kind of meh. Now he does get a lot of assists. His first assist rate per 60 minutes is high, so he is creating points when he's getting them, but he doesn't really finish very well. He doesn't drive offense. He doesn't score a ton of goals, but his size and his presence on the third line with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Marcus Foligno are why he has stuck around here for a long time. Yep. So this isn't. I don't just look at this and think, oh my goodness, analytically he's a mess. And Jay Fresh also says that he's a defensive first bottom six forward, and this model is not fond of him due to his very poor results apart from Ek and Foligno. And his line mates are basically driving his play. His line mates are the ones that are driving his play, and that's all true. I will say eye test wise and even expanding it out, what he means to that line and means to the team, that's why Guerin re-signed him to exactly what you're talking about there. Like that's why he was re-signed is because he means a lot to that line and the overall goal of the team, and which is probably why he potentially accepted lesser money that he could have received on the open market. I wouldn't have signed him to a $4.7 million deal if that's his market rate. However, I understand there's people who are a lot smarter than me who would understand and do that to him. But Greenway looks at it as, I'm buying into this team long term. I know my role here. They're not asking me to do too much, right? I'm not being put in a position where I'm not happy. He's clearly, I think, satisfied and likes playing with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Marcus Foligno. I like him. I like the contract, but I'm not in love with him, and I don't think it's too far-fetched to really say he still could be someone that's moved this summer if the right pieces came along.
So I think the cap thing too is this: the Wild's not going to be in a position for the next 3 years or so, especially on the open market, to go out and improve upon Jordan, and so keeping him at that rate is smart because he fits where he fits well. Is he a potential star? Absolutely not. Boldy is. He's not. But I think in trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together, knowing what the Suter and Parisi hits are going to do to you is a little bit difficult. And I'm going to go through what Bill Guerin has done. So he took over as GM for Paul Fenton, who, by the way, made some very nice moves himself. August of 2019, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So here is what Bill Guerin has done as far as contracts go since he got into the GM's chair with this team. Kaprizov, not a bargain, but he's great. 5 years, 45, so 9 per year. But then I'm going to start you down the path here, Dex, of contracts that are good. Eriksson Ek, 8 years, 42. That's 5.25 million per for 8 years. That's good. Like, that's a very fair, team-friendly contract for a guy who potentially easily could have gone shorter term, and as the salary cap starts to go up in the back half of that contract, gotten more. But he didn't. Foligno, January of 2021, a year ago at this time, 3 years, 9.3, 3.1 million. That's a bargain, a complete bargain. And then Ryan Hartman. This is unbelievable. April of 21. So this past spring, Ryan Hartman, 3 years, 5.1. He is averaging, for the production that you so far are getting as your top line center, he is averaging AAV 1.7 million per. That is beyond good. That's great. Spurgeon, 7 years, 53. So that's an average of 7.6 million per, but he's your top defenseman. Brodin, 7 years, 42, 6 per. Dumba, who was actually signed to an extension of 5 years in 2018 by Paul Fenton, 30 million, so 6 per. The point being, though, is Bill Guerin has done a fantastic job if you take the big picture and including what he did with Greenway now. He's done a fantastic job of getting guys under contract for terms that are extremely favorable, or in Kaprizov's case, just got the deal done. Fiala is going to be the first one that I don't think he can do. I think that I think there's an off chance that Kevin, because he's an RFA this spring, comes back next year and then is gone, or is traded this spring. That one becomes difficult because I don't think he's going to take a quote-unquote team-friendly deal. But for the most part, given what the Wild will be facing from a cap standpoint, this to me today includes a trend of very fair but good contracts to keep these guys intact.
Yeah. And a kudos to Bill Guerin for getting all those deals done, and I do applaud him for that as well. Ryan Hartman might be the best deal in the NHL right now. It's absurd what he's been able to do. Obviously, playing with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello, now exploding for a career year, does say a lot too. But in general, there's been buy-in from these guys. Now, eventually, the cap space is going to run out here. It's going to come tight, I should say, not run out, but it's going to come extremely tight when the buyouts really start to kick in years 2, 3, 4. But in general, Bill Guerin has done a great job at getting players to buy in, literally, to these contracts for the betterment of the team. So I do applaud him for that. He's a friend of the show. I do applaud him for that.
Done a hell of a job. All right. I cannot believe that this actually became a topic, but it did. Matthew Boldy has been told he's staying. Matthew has been told you can find an apartment here now. You're not going back to Des Moines. This kid's incredible. I thought that he would be good. He's better than I expected, at least this quickly. And it changes Fiala's game completely, Dex, because it's gone from, oh boy, he's playing with Goudreau and some guy who, to quote my term, is a slappy, to he's playing now on a line with another wing who is a legitimate big time player. And this goes back to Paul Fenton. When Paul Fenton passed on Caulfield at that time, Dex, a lot of people, including me, said, Cole Caulfield can score goals. He's a small guy, but he can really score goals. Are you sure? And I saw Boldy play in the World Juniors last year, and I said, oh, I get it now. This is one of the better picks, and Fenton deserves full credit because I think Caulfield would have been the popular pick. Certainly is the dynamic goal-scoring player, or was. But Matthew Boldy, I think that it's safe to say that he's not just going to stick around for now. This is a guy who could be here for a long, long time. And at some point in time, I'm not going to be surprised if he is on a first line. He is a true talent. He is really good.
Yeah, we kind of I wouldn't say we haven't noticed Matthew Boldy because he's certainly been noticeable, but my God, he's just been awesome for the Wild in the first dozen games here. So, and good for Bill Guerin to recognize, yeah, he's sticking around. I see some tweets and I see people that say, look, why is he on the taxi squad? That's a cap procedure move. The Wild are so up against it. That's why, if you see a tweet, don't freak out. That's why he's on the taxi squad. So this is your daily reminder to not freak out when you see Matthew Boldy's name on the taxi squad. He's not going anywhere. It's a money crunching move. It's not a pull ad penny pinching move. Look, Matthew Boldy's been damn good. He's helped awoken Kevin Fiala. Fiala's been red hot. Boley's been red hot. That's not a coincidence that since Boley's been come up, Kevin Fiala's finally found his game a little bit more, at least box score wise. I think Fiala's game has been there the majority of the season. He just hasn't gotten rewarded. He's basically been the stocking to Kevin Fiala on Christmas, right? Like he's literally been that little extra boost that Fiala's needed. And Boldy should be sticking here long term. I know there's some idea that, well, where's Marco Rossi? He still is putting up points in Iowa right there. I don't know what the hell that was. I think someone's trying to knock on my door. It might be actually Bill Guerin. Billy, I'll get you in a minute. Yeah, no, just grab a drink. You'll be all right. Take your time.
Rule of thumb. Never get your door.
But I think in general, I think Boldy has helped and woken Fiala, and he should be sticking here long term. And Rossi could be here soon eventually too. You never know about that. But right now, I'm glad that Bill Guerin basically accepted the fact that, hey, good for you. You deserve to stay here. We're not sending you down.
I hope so. The second thing off of the game that they won last night on the island is this one. It's incredibly encouraging, not just the fact that they won back-to-back games on Friday and Sunday, Declan. It's incredibly encouraging that Kaapo Kahkonen, not Cam Talbot, got the start last night, was absolutely outstanding.
He was great.
But I mean, this is the blueprint, Dex, for what we've discussed. This is what you have to have. So, and look, I'm not sure about you, and I know that Talbot was coming back off injury, but I think a month ago or 2 months back, Cam Talbot starts both games. Day between them, they were deferring to Cam more.
I tend to agree.
This is what you are going to need. And for Kaapo to play that well was absolutely key, because the All-Star break, so the Wild plays on Wednesday, All-Star game on Saturday, and they're going to come back from the All-Star break next week and essentially play every other day. And when you do that, you're going to need both of these guys to play. And I'm not saying that they're both going to be lights out consistently, but they both have to play. And for Kaapo to come back then on Sunday after Talbot played well on Friday is huge. And it seems to me like Dean is probably at a point where he knows that the rotation is going to have to look like this. Maybe not every time, but I think through this next stretch, the majority of the time, it's going to be Cam and Kakko. It can't just be Cam. Okay, Kakko plays now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been phenomenal for the Wild. I mean, he continues to play extremely well just over the last 8 games, and he's seeing a ton of shots. I think that's what's even more crazy. The Wild have done
last night?
He had 40 saves. He saw 43 of them. I mean, he has seen at least 36 shots or more in 6 of his last 8 starts. So, I mean, he's seeing a ton of pucks. Now, I not to put a goalie whisperer hat on, I do know most goalies say the more shots they face, the better they feel throughout a game. So they would honestly rather see 38 shots than 18 shots. They'd rather be in a comfortable position where they're getting peppered and they can kind of feel and be in their own game. But the Isles, even though they got off to such that poor start, I mean, Matthew Barzal, I mean, I tweeted every single game because I love watching him in person. I was only able to watch him on the television screen yesterday. He's flying up and down the ice. Brock Nelson scores a big-time goal on him.
Yeah, your guy Brock Nelson looked really good at times last night.
The Islanders have some firepower. And, I mean, look, he held with Colorado last few weeks ago pretty damn well, too. Like, Kaapo Kahkonen continues to play well, but in general, even though this has been great, that Kaapo Kahkonen has been playing well, don't fall in love and don't just put him out there for 80% of the starts, right? Like,
no, they're not going to. Split the time, baby.
And just split it right down the middle with Cam Talbot. And I think you'll be okay. I think Kaapo Kahkonen has done a great job. And now you get, I know you have a little bit of an all-star break, but then it ramps back up right afterwards about a week from now, and things are going to be a lot chaotic. So great that Kaapo Kahkonen got another big-time start. He had to get another good performance in.
Get that All-Star game done. I hate the All-Star game. Get that thing done out of the way, and let's play some puck. Last thing, Zach Parisi, fourth line center. Your thoughts?
Oh, darn. Yeah. I barely noticed him.
You watch him
yesterday. Yeah, I barely noticed him. That's the weirdest
slow
thing.
Down even more, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Here's
good
my
for
prediction.
Zach.
I do not believe that Lou, in the contract that he did, gave him any sort of trade protection. My guess, Zach Parisi moved to a contender by the deadline.
Who
is
that personal? Is that
six guy?
But is that Zach's request, or is that Lou just saying
It'll be Lou.
Get him out?
He's going to offset. No. Zach probably wants to stay, but that team is not good, and I think that here's what I would love to see: Zach go to a team, be successful, and retire. It's so slow, Declan. He's so slow now.
I don't know who would want him.
He played a hard game for a long time. I mean, you might be right, but bottom six guy, I don't know.
I mean, he can barely play significant minutes on the Islanders. He had to get in the lineup in the playoffs last year for the Wild by default.
I know. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
Look at you still talking about. I thought we were done talking about the days of Zach Parisi on this podcast. Who are you?
It's like my friend Kirk Cousins. I want to help. I want to get these guys to places where they can ultimately experience success. I said the Oilers and the Islanders were going to meet in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And you can pull that. I'm an idiot.
You are an idiot. The Wild shed the pounds of Zach Parise, and you continue to shed the pounds on LIVIA, Judd.
Oh, that's well put, Declan. I do. And in fact, thanks to my friends at LIVIA Weight Control Centers, I'm down 30 plus pounds. And I want you to join me on the weight loss train. And I got a deal for you. It is called the 8-Week Challenge. And guess what? Your first 8 weeks are free. That's right.
Did you hear that, Zach? Shed some pounds, get it a little quicker.
I lost 26 pounds. So I'm telling you right now that you can lose 26 pounds. Oh, hell, maybe more for free. How? Livia.com. LIVEA.com. And if you're in town, that's great. If you're not, consultation on Zoom. You'll be talking to them once a week. It's easy as can be. The dietitians are great. Livia.com. Give them a chance, and I'm going to tell you right now, you won't trade that program. LIVEA.com. Next show, we do have to talk about my fear right now. I think that we should tease this, but my fear is this. The Wild's really good. I really like them. I'm to the point now where I could see them becoming hot in the playoffs and making a run. I really think that. Yeah. They're galvanized. They've got Kaprizov is marvelous. Your guy, Fiala is. But I spent the early 80s as a North Stars junkie. I loved them, right? And there was always a pesky club in the Western Conference back then. God. The Oilers. Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, Grant Fuhr. We got to talk about the pesky club now. Yeah. Because
withhold it.
No.
Give a tease. Just give it a little dangle.
I am. That's my point. My greatest fear is this. The pesky club in the Western Conference right now has an absolute superstar who's hurt, and he's not having a great year yet. And this team is unbelievable.
Okay.
I want to know next time we talk if you are as I don't know what the word is. I'm not scared. If you are as apprehensive as I am about that team.
I'm not as much apprehensive about that team who I think it is, because you know what? It's about one thing on this show. It's about one damn thing. It's
what
about
is that?
win.
Listen, you guys know what this is all about, right? Right? What's it all about? Spurgey?
Hard work and having fun.
That. This is about winning.